Hey there, welcome to dotnetFlix. We are at .NET Saturday and we are joined by Rick van den Bos.
Yeah.
Hi Rick, welcome.
Thanks.
So what do you want to talk about today?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. And I would like to talk about configuration in Azure.
Okay.
Because there's this new service, Azure App Configuration, which is
Yeah.
about to go into GA. So it's still preview right now.
Okay.
And I would like to show some stuff about Azure App Configuration.
Sounds
Cool.
good.
Yeah.
Let's
Nice.
dive in.
Cool. So if you look at Azure App Configuration, it's actually a universal, fully managed configuration store. So it enables you to have configuration settings which might span across multiple applications to have them just in one location. And the cool thing about that is you only have management on one location, right?
So it's centralized.
Yes, it's centralized. And then the cool thing is that the data is encrypted, both at rest as in transit. And there's native integration with a lot of popular frameworks like .NET and Java Spring. And it reduces configuration complexity, right? Because sometimes you have this database that actually everybody needs to have just a look in one table. And if you haven't split those out into multiple databases or different data stores, which might be a good idea, then you can see that it's hard to keep all the settings up to date in all the different applications where your configuration is. So this reduces that one, and also it improves security, and not only by separating configuration from code, but together with another Azure service called Azure Key Vault.
Right.
There's this really cool integration so that your application just thinks it's getting a configuration setting, and then it actually gets it from Key Vault with a managed identity without even having any secrets at all anywhere.
Cool, because Key Vault you still use for your secrets, right?
Yes.
So if you've got something like a connection string, you wouldn't store that directly in the app configuration, so you would store that in Key Vault.
True, because secrets you don't want them, I mean, first of all, you don't want them in source code because anybody can access it. But you also don't want to have it in configuration, because if a user has just a little bit too much rights and he can read an app service, then they can go into configuration and click show values and they see all the secrets.
Right.
So, but there's even a cooler solution for connecting to, for instance, a SQL database without even needing any secrets. And that's also something I would like to show. So let's dive into a demo. I will have to close this one off. So first of all, let's go to Visual Studio. And I have this really simple application here. I'm going to close all documents so that I can start fresh. And now first let's see, this is actually a really simple page. It's using Razor Pages because it can, and I wanted to test it out. So it actually binds to something called setting 1 on the back end, or on the model. And then in the model, we have this property called setting 1, which is a string. And we have a constructor and a field where we actually inject the normal I configuration that we all know and love from dependency injection in ASP.NET.
Yeah.
We put that in the backend field. So in the end, this is not relative code or relevant code, but this is the relevant code, right? We're going to get setting 1 and we're going to get it from our configuration.
Right.
But the thing doesn't know where the configuration is. So if we now look into our app settings.json, of course, we will have a setting 1, which says this is the value from app settings.json. So if we go to this website when it's deployed, of course we have the value for setting 1, the value from app settings.json. However, if we want to run this through Azure App Configuration, what we can do is in our program CS, we have integration for Azure App Configuration with a NuGet package that actually enables you to add Azure App Configuration to the iConfiguration inside of ASP.NET.
So it will be just a configuration provider, just as file and environment variables, but now they come from Azure App Configuration.
Yeah, and the cool thing is they stack. So
Okay.
it first looks into app configuration. If it doesn't find it there, it looks into the settings of the app service in Azure. And if it can't find it there, it will just default to the app settings.json file.
Cool.
And now the thing I'm doing here is I'm actually building the configuration builder once, because along the way here I actually need a setting from the app settings file or from the Azure app settings to find where my Azure app configuration is. So that's the connection string right there. And then the cool thing with these little guys is that you can add filters and they stack as well. So what this actually means is, okay, I'm going to get a setting from app configuration, and I would like to get the value for production first.
Okay.
So it has a label, and the label is production. If that doesn't exist, I will fall back to acceptance.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
If that doesn't exist, I'll fall back to test, and otherwise I'll just fall back to the default.
Whatever. Yeah.
So this enables you to have an application that's completely unaware of anything specific about configuration. It doesn't know if it's from app-settings.json, from Azure App Settings, or from Azure App Configuration.
Yep.
So if we now go into that same page where we were just now, where we have the getting the setting, it doesn't know if it's using app configuration or not. But if we now go into the portal and we look at the website that we have, of course I could add the setting 1 here with a different value,
Yeah.
and then of course the website would show me that new value.
Yeah. But then it's not centralized anymore. Then it's
No.
specific for that
Yeah,
single
true.
application,
So-
right?
Yeah, but in my session I did the demo of, look, first from the app settings JSON, then from Azure App
Right.
Settings, but
Yeah.
we'll skip that for now and I'll
Yeah.
go into app configuration. And this is what it looks like. You have the configuration explorer that actually lets you add all the configuration you need, and it has a feature manager because Azure App Configuration also enables feature flagging.
That's
Oh, nice.
Cool. That's cool.
Yeah, so you can filter, for instance, on customer, and then add feature flags here, and you can enable or disable the features
Cool.
right from the portal.
Nice.
But the session was about configuration, so there's one thing that might stand out, because there's a select date here. It also says select key and select label, but the select date thing means that Azure App Configuration stores the entire history of your values it
Oh, wow.
ever had. So if you push out a new application and you update the keys, but then the application goes down or the version isn't correct, you can just roll back.
Okay.
And you can also roll back your version of your app configuration setting right here.
That's cool.
Can you also add keys to use in the future? So they're not immediately active, but only after a certain date?
Well, that's a good question. At this point, no. Because at this point, it's just taking a snapshot as soon as you add a new
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
version. So you don't have a valid from or
Right.
date.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what we can do is we can have a setting here that says setting 1, and we'll say hello to dotnetFlix, of course. Is it with a capital X?
No.
No.
It's all lower and then capital F, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it does matter. We're on dotnetFlix right now.
I think you're missing a T after that.
dotnetFlix, that's it.
Yeah, that
Yep.
looks good.
So this is the value that we add for setting 1. In the meantime, let me restart this website because I haven't implemented the website to update as soon as there's a new version of a setting available. But while the application is restarting, what you see here is that we have this label field right here. Currently it's empty. And the cool thing is it populates with all the labels you've used in the past.
Oh, okay.
So if you have a label prod, the next time you add a value, you could select prod from
that's
that thing
useful.
or type a new one. And then you could even specify a content type, so if you put in there that it's a number, then you'll get back a number.
Okay. Nice.
Let's leave it at a string for now, and we'll have setting 1 and hello to dotnetFlix will apply, and then we can see right away that the value is here.
Yeah.
Of course, the value is hidden, but it's here, and we should be able to connect to it right now. So if we go back to the website, and I'm hoping this will work the first time, if we refresh the page that actually read from app-settings.json first, which could also read from the Azure App Settings, should now read from App Configuration.
Netflix.
Nice.
While the application doesn't even know it's reading from configuration, except for that one little thing where we added the Azure App Configuration
Yeah.
right there. But we stacked it on top of the normal app configuration, so for the rest of the application, it's just business as usual.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Now there's this extra thing that we actually implemented last week with a customer, and I mean, most of us know the trials and tribulations of implementing multi-tenant applications, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
we do.
I'm so sorry. And then the cool thing for that is you would like to have your application be distributed once and then act for all types of tenants. And what you would like to have is, let's say, a configuration service that actually gives you back, based on the context that you're running in, the settings that you need for your database or your storage. So what we did for that customer is we implemented this cool little feature, or at least I think it's a cool little feature. They have this authorization context, which I just copied for the sake of it right now. And then we implemented a customer configuration service.
Oh.
What it actually does is it gets the normal iConfiguration And it gets the authorization context that enables us to read what the client is that we're actually getting a setting for. So we're taking the client ID of the authorization context. We're creating a new client to read from app configuration.
Nice.
And then anywhere in the application, because this has an interface and you can just dependency inject it, wherever you need a setting, inject this bad boy, ask for the setting, and as you can see right here, it automatically prefixes with client ID and then a semicolon, which means I only get the setting that's applicable for that client.
Yeah, nice.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And this is relatively simple, and it's so powerful if you want to implement a managed identity, a multi-tenant application.
Yeah. And in this case, it's with a client ID, but you can do anything you want. Right?
Yes,
you can base it on something that comes in, and then you base your algorithm on that. That's
It could even be the issuer ID of the JWT token that comes in.
Exactly. Nice.
So that's actually something that with a few lines of code enables you to at least more easily implement a multi-tenant application, but it's never easy. So that's this one. And now let's see. We talked about the Key Vault thing, right? Mm-hmm. So if we go back to this website and I go to the Key Vault 1 page, then you can see that it says this is a secret from Azure Key Vault. And it is. We actually got that from Azure Key Vault. And as you can see right here, it's retrieved through the secret client. Mm-hmm. So going into code again, because that's what we know and love, right? And we go to the Key Vault 1. Here you can see that I actually use Managed Identity, the new implementation, connecting to a Key Vault and getting a secret. And then I really dislike this.
Yeah.
The reason that it's there is that the get secret returns a response of type secret, and in the secret there's a value. So I need to first get the value from the response and then the value for the secret. You might have
But
seen
you get a lot of value. Let's leave it at that.
it's double the value.
Double the value.
And as you can see right here, I tricked it. Shh, don't say it.
No problem.
The customer said, I don't like the value. I said, I'll fix it for you.
So your customer actually wanted less value.
But okay, I'm not going to go into that one. So what this actually does is, what a managed identity is, and maybe it's a good idea to just really quick switch to the managed identity slides for this one. What managed identity actually is you can give an Azure service, so an app service or an Azure function, a service principal inside of Azure Active Directory, which means that it is now known as a security item or thing or user or object, as they are called in Azure Active Directory, or normal Active Directory for that case. So you have this identity, but this time it's for an application. And now you can say, okay, so this storage account can be connected to by this identity. And the identity could be a user, but it can also be an application. And the big power there is you don't need any secrets at all anymore.
And you don't need any service accounts or stuff like that. It's just the identity of the application itself.
And that's enough.
Nice.
So for instance, connecting to SQL, you just have a server name and a database name and it just works. There are quite a few supporting services of managed identity, and these are actually the ones calling out to another resource. So you could use that from app service or from functions or from logic apps. And if you look at all the services that are enabling Azure Active Directory authentication, as in you could call those with a managed identity, that's Key Vault and SQL and Service Bus and storage. As the quote on the top says, they are in the process of integrating managed identities for Azure resources across Azure, because they really see this as the next big thing in security.
So something that's conspicuously missing here is the actual app configuration service.
Yes.
So is
that
possible?
That's probably because app configuration is still in preview. So they were targeting for Q4 2019 for GA. They didn't make it because there's an issue with .NET Core 3, I think 3.0 if I'm not mistaken, with the new managed identity implementation. So they're actually working on that one and they're expecting Q1 2020 right now. So it's not there. But the thing is also, and let's switch back to code for that one again. And I'm going to go into a different solution right now because this is a solution that actually does a lot of things about managed identity. It's all available on GitHub, by the way.
Cool.
And what you see, let's first go to the simplest oh no, that's not the simplest one. No, that's the bad one. I think even this is the simplest one. So if we zoom in just a little bit, here you can see that from the package Microsoft.Azure.Services.App Authentication, you get integration of managed identity in your code. So if you look here, the normal SQL connection, the class that we've all used years and years, it already has an access token property that you can set to connect to a resource. And then by using the Azure Service Token Provider, you could actually specify that you would like to have an access token for database.windows.net. It gives you a token, and with that token you can just connect to the SQL database and go. The only thing you need in your connection string is the server name, and there's no tricks there, the database name. That's it. And then this enables you to run based on managed identity and connect to the SQL database. Now if you look into Service Bus, it's a little bit different, because here we have this explicit Service Bus token provider that we need to push into our Q client. And the reason that the Service Bus token provider is there is that most of us, I use a Microsoft account to connect to the Azure portal. And that works. However, if I'm running locally and I would like to use my Microsoft account as the managed identity, I need to specify explicitly that I would like to get a token for the tenant ID that my Azure stuff is running on. Because by default, the tenant for your Microsoft account token would be live.com. That doesn't work. And my applications at least don't run on live.com. So
not yet.
Well, you can always hope, right? So I implemented this Service Bus token provider here that just takes the normal Azure Service Bus token provider as we saw before. It still just says, give me a token for servicebus.azure.net, which is the default URL for Service Bus. And now I explicitly add the tenant ID for when I'm running locally. I could say, but do it on my Azure Active Directory tenant and not on live.com. Well, it just returns a JSON security token. And if we go back to connecting to Service Bus, then you can see that you create a Q client that only takes in the Service Bus token provider. And after that, you're good to go. You only need to know what's the name of my service bus and what's the name of the queue, and let's put some messages on. So that's also pretty powerful. Now, the reason I had storage for the last one is if I do it like this, then it doesn't look like much, right? However, where SQL and most of the time also Service Bus are meant to be short-lived connections, you could have a longer living connection to storage. And then you need to take into account that the token might expire. So now we have this entire implementation with a token renewer async that actually, well, please expand. That actually checks the expiration date, and if it's from 5 minutes from now, we'll get the new one. So you need to jump through all these hoops, but in the end, still what you do is you create storage credentials with the token you get, and you can just get the thing. Now, to make sure that this actually works, let's run this bad boy. And here in the constants, I have defined the blob that I would like to connect to. So this is my storage account directly going into a text file. And just so you guys know that I'm not fooling around, this is Firefox, which I never use for anything except for testing. You can see it doesn't find the file because it's in a private container. I could have set it to a public container and see, look, it works with managed identity, but it's better to actually have it work. So this doesn't work. Now we have this function up and running. And one of these functions is, I need to get this one. One of these functions is connect to storage. That's the implementation that we just saw here. Now if we go into a browser and we go connect to storage, it might take some time because the first time it takes some time, and then we see hello from Azure Storage. And just to be extra sure, let's go into my storage account that we just connected to. It should be this one, into the Storage Explorer. And then, if I'm not mistaken, under the test container, there's this hw.txt, which says hello from Azure Storage. So I now run a Azure function locally, which connects to Azure Storage, and the only thing it has is the direct location of a file that it wants to access, and the fact that I'm running on my machine with this managed identity. So the way Visual Studio knows that I'm running as this user is right here under Azure Service Authentication. You can select the account. This is the principle that the thing runs under.
Yeah.
The cool thing is if you, for instance, want to do something with command line, you can just do AZ login.
Yeah.
And
You get the context. and-
yeah,
Get it
the
from-
one that
yeah.
you specify there is the one that will run as the managed identity.
Okay.
So how did I enable the managed identity to be able to connect to the storage account? Well, that's relatively simple because under access control,
Oh yeah.
you could specify which role assignment somebody has. I think no, I didn't close it down. So if we look right here, then you can see that because I'm the owner, I have a storage blob data reader and a user access administrator, but this one, that's the website that we were just running.
Yeah.
That's also now connected to this
Yeah.
one. So if I want to go into that website, let's check right here, under identity, I flipped this switch,
Yep.
all the other stuff was managed for me, and I clicked save, and then it had a managed identity.
Nice.
And then I could pick it up under role assignments. But I said that that we can go even one step further, because in the application that we have right here available, where we do all the stuff with managed identity ourselves, or at least with the tokens, we have this website, and we would actually like it to be really unaware of where secret source settings are coming from.
Yeah.
So closing all the windows down again just to get a bit of room. I think I can pin this one right now. We'll go into the Key Vault 2 application or page. Now what you see here, I'm going to expand just so that we can see what's under there. There's no smoke and mirrors here. I mean, we get again the eye configuration that we pass into this local field, so the field's not interesting, that's gone. Then we have this public string secret one that we bind to from the page, so that's not interesting. And then we have the constructor that has constructor dependency injection for the eye configuration, so that's also not interesting. So the only thing this page knows is I would like to get a value, which is of type string, for secret 1 on my normal eye configuration.
Yeah.
Now, the way this can work is in Azure App Configuration, and let's go back there, and I think I closed it down, so I'm going to open it again. And this is my app config. Under my Configuration Explorer, that maybe people who've paid close attention, let's zoom in just a little, see that there's a Key Vault reference right there. So what I can do is I can add a Key Vault reference, and I call it secret 1. It doesn't have a label. I can select the subscription and resource group I'm going to talk to. So I would like to talk to my Key Vault for configuration in Azure done right, and I can even select the secret that's in there.
Oh, nice.
Now if I apply this, you can see here that it has a Key Vault little icon, still the hidden value, and then the content type here is explicitly set to be a Key Vault ref. And now App Configuration knows that if anybody asks for secret 1, you should go into Key Vault,
This is pretty cool.
get the secret, and use it. So going back to our initial website where we had the references, just to be sure that I didn't implement the reboot as I said. So I'm going to restart this right now. And actually what App Configuration does, and I think that's a good thing, it also caches values.
Okay.
Because Key Vault, for instance, it has a max of 200 requests per second. Because it's not meant to be pounded on. Because there's cryptography going on, it needs to be secure, right? So App Configuration does some caching over there, and that's a good thing as far as I'm concerned. So you could implement that your application needs to get the new values as soon as they're available. I just didn't implement that for today. But if we now go into this page and I go to Key Vault 2, then I hope that it will say that here's a value for secret 1 retrieved through a Key Vault reference, as they are called, and then we should see the same value for the secret. So there we are. We are now on page 2. It uses a Key Vault reference, and the same secret value is there.
Nice.
So this is pretty powerful, and it enables you to leave out configuration completely out of source code, but also completely out of stuff like Azure App Settings, where people can just click around and look at values.
Exactly.
The secrets are now in the place where they need to be.
And your developers only need to get settings from configuration, that's it. and then other people can set the secrets in Azure Key Vault.
Yes,
which is
completely.
pretty cool.
And
Yeah.
so you can also do management in Key Vault and have everything be available there. And your developers don't even know that it's coming from a different source.
And
They
it's
just-
all audited, and
Yes.
all those kinds of goodness that you get with Azure Key Vault,
Yeah.
that's also in there automatically.
Yeah.
So,
Nice.
so what's the pricing for the app configuration service?
That's a very nice question, and I'm going to show you the page because otherwise you might not believe me.
Once
Azure-
it's in GA, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah, no, but this is the cool thing. You can see that I've searched for it.
Yeah.
So this is one of the first services I've ever seen where they say, "Hey, it's free, as long as it's in preview." And
yeah.
Okay.
we'll let you know what the
We'll let
costs
you know.
are
Okay.
as soon as you're done.
Because normally it's like 50% after
Yes.
review,
Yeah.
right?
I think they just don't know explicitly how to value it yet.
Okay.
Because
gonna be
what are
interesting.
they going to? I mean, is it going to be the amount of keys you have, or is
Yeah.
it the amount of times you ask for them, or a combination
Yeah.
of the two, or is there more? So currently, I don't know, but I
Yeah.
think it's really powerful.
Yeah,
so
it's really cool.
For now, I don't care as much yet, but
Basically, it comes down to some storage, some network I/O, and some compute. And
Yeah, it
they have
shouldn't be
to-
very costly for
Yeah,
them to
true,
run.
true.
Yeah. So they have to figure out what's the value, right?
The added value.
Added value.
It's the
Yeah,
added
we're-
value. That's why there's two values.
We're full circle. Nice.
Cool. I like it.
Really cool stuff.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me.
No problem. Thank you.
I hope the people at .NET Saturday have had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I hope to see you soon.
Yeah, and I hope you guys also liked it. And check out all these kinds of nice stuff. You talked about a GitHub repo.
Yeah.
I will put it in the show notes.
Well, I did
Yeah,
So
too,
if you
though.
give me
that's
the
a good
link,
thing.
then we will put it in the description. And
Yeah.
then see you at the next episode of dotnetFlix. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.